Welcome to the Digital Amateur Television Experimenters Night. This is VK7 OTC, the club station of the Radio and Electronics Association of Southern Tasmania. Amateur radio is a worldwide hobby that has many different aspects. Digital television is just one of the many modes and areas that are covered. Maybe you're interested in becoming involved in the DATV Experimenters Nights. Do you realise that you do not have to be a radio amateur or need any ATV equipment to participate anywhere in the world? Also participate in the night by coming up to the Queen's Domain club rooms. Yes, right on top of the Queen's Domain in the heritage-listed Coast Wireless Station. You never know, we might get you in front of the camera or behind doing one of the many roles during the night. We get underway with our program on a Wednesday night from 7:30pm local time. We'll see you soon. This is VK7 OTC.
Okay, this is VK7 OTC, the club station of the Radio and Electronics Association of Southern Tasmania with our DATV Experimenters Night. And our first guest tonight, we have three guests tonight in our ATV studio. But the first guest is Ben, VK7BN.
G'day, Justin. Hello, everyone.
How are you doing?
Oh, not too bad.
Looking very bright today.
Very bright, yes. High contrast today.
Excellent.
And you can even see that on the video there.
Oh, definitely,
Yep.
definitely. In fact, I can even do
Yeah,
so we can see.
Yes. X marks the spot.
Bit of well and truly.
Yeah.
So I got Ben in tonight because he brought in a very interesting bit of kit last week, and I said, "Oh, I think we would like to see what that kit is and what it does." So over to you, Ben.
All right. So, I have a habit of picking up expensive hobbies. One of those is ham radio, and the other is photography. And one of the things I've recently taken more of an interest in is storm chasing.
Cool.
So whereas most people want to go inside when a thunderstorm comes in overhead, I want to get out in it. Not only does the car get a bit of a wash, but I've got a good chance of getting some really good photos.
Okay.
About 3 weeks ago now, there was a fantastic storm which went down the back of the Megan Range and came over Midway Point in Sorrel. And I've got this photo of this massive UFO-like storm cell with a big rain core in the middle, rain pouring on down through it.
Okay.
But I didn't capture the 3 lightning bolts that came out of the front of it.
Right.
And that was a bit sad because I'd set the camera up. I was trying, as everyone can appreciate, lightning bolts aren't exactly the slowest things in the world. So
no.
You have to try different things to try and actually capture them. And one of the most common ways, and certainly at night the most easiest way, is to tell your camera to have a shutter speed of 30 seconds.
Yep.
Hit the button and pray. And if you get a lightning strike in that 30 seconds, brilliant. That gets a lot harder at daylight because there's this thing called light, and that 30 seconds that
causes overexposure.
You'll just get a white photo. So the shutter speed then will come down to at best I'll put in a filter to make it all darker.
Yeah.
I've got it down to about 2 seconds.
Okay.
And every lightning bolt, and basically I was just there hitting the button, hitting the button, hitting the button.
Okay.
and the lightning bolts hit every time in between the 2 seconds ending and me hitting the button again.
Right.
So yeah, I decided that wasn't going to happen again. So I bought this little thing here, which camera are we on?
We can put it over here.
Yeah.
We can.
Do you want to slide the switch to the on top?
Oh,
Right.
Well,
Yep. There we go.
so
So Justin's just going to put this on the little Elmo
now
camera.
I am going to, if I can work it out. Why don't we do this? Why don't we do this? Yep. No, we're there.
Yep.
We're there. And if we zoom in a little bit, we can actually get.
So
There we go.
yeah. So this is called a MeOps Smart Remote Trigger.
Cool.
And as you can see there, it is actually set for lightning right now.
Cool.
So
Do you want some lightning?
we'll probably have to do something here to activate it. So if I hit that, sensitivity is thick. There we go. If I do that, so even then you can see that it's picking up movements of light in the room. So it detects it because it's that sensitive. It will detect light changes.
There we go.
Yeah.
I switched on the overhead lights here.
And yeah, it will pick it up. So the idea of this attaches to your camera, and it will set the trigger off every time it detects a difference in the brightness that it sees. So if you got off the front there, is where the sensor is. So it will quite happily plug away there because I'm guessing it's having fun with the fluoros.
Yeah.
So
Cool.
and the other thing about that is that it will cause a trigger to happen in microseconds, whereas
Okay.
me going, oh, lightning shot, click,
Yeah.
at best it's going to be 20 milliseconds or more, and you're not going to get it.
Yeah. Okay.
So unfortunately I haven't had a chance to play with it much as yet.
So you haven't actually captured something on it yet?
Not yet.
Okay.
Not through lack of trying.
No.
However, there are some other features in this remote trigger. It's also got a laser beam in it, so you can break the beam to cause a trigger.
Okay.
So that's for things like if you're a lot of people like taking photos of water drops, splashing water into glasses with dyes and stuff, and the idea is to capture it that instant when the drop hits the water. So that will do that.
Okay.
It's got a sound trigger in it, which is reasonably common these days. So you can capture a balloon bursting and things like that. It will also work for setting up time lapses and what they call time warping. So if you do a time lapse, you can actually adjust a bit like what some of the Apple phones do with their slow-mo. You can adjust the time-lapse speed halfway through it.
Okay.
So you can speed it up, slow it down as part of the process.
Okay.
And everyone knows I'm a bit of a computer geek, so this thing is actually Bluetooth connected to a phone app. So I can control the whole thing off my phone if I want to.
Right.
But you can control it off the device itself.
Okay.
Whilst it's nice, I don't want it to rely on my mobile phone while I'm out in the field.
How does it trigger the camera to take the photo?
So normally,
is there a physical connection?
There is a physical connection. Again, we probably can't see that too much here.
Hang on, we'll go back over here.
Yeah.
But
off the side, there's a number of inputs for chords. What one's for the shutter? What one is so that you can put a flash in?
Okay.
USB charging for the battery unit because it's all a whole self-contained unit.
And it all looks like it's sort of reasonably rugged. If you've got, given you're chasing storm cells and there's probably a lot of rain around.
Yeah. You generally,
So, I don't know, very good.
So
very good indeed.
Yeah. So I mean, I did try a bit of storm chasing this weekend just gone.
Okay.
There was a indication that storms were going to form over Swirl again and head out to the east coast. So between the hours of sort of midday and 4.
Okay.
So I thought that would be a good idea. Let's go and try that.
Yep.
I've got some photos. I might bring them up here on the screen here. So I'll wait for Justin to cut over.
Yeah.
I'm making it Justin work tonight.
No, well and truly. If I don't know how to use the if I don't know how to use the mixer, I will by the end of the night.
So I'll just get that up. There we go. So,
Cool.
Yep. Have we got to?
And we're there. We're there.
So I mean, that wasn't the greatest of photos. I have to say.
Sure.
I ended up at Little Swanport by mid-afternoon.
Right. Okay. Chasing it out to the east coast.
Yep.
Yes.
What I actually found out was happening was that the cells were building as they got towards the coast and then dissipated.
Okay.
And then as they went out over Freycinet, they started to recycle and get themselves organised again.
Okay.
As you can see here, a small rain core formed in that cell, which I was out before, and started to
drop a lot of rain.
Let's
By
see
the
if
look
we
of it.
can't get that in focus a bit better. Not really. So I mean, it dried.
Yeah.
Apparently there was a bit of hail enrichment in Surreal, which is always annoying because that's where I usually start. And one of the really hard things about storm chasing in Tasmania is certainly in the south there's only one road going east-west, which is sort of that road from obviously the Tasman Highway to Surreal, and then from Surreal to Alford, then you're going all the way up until you turn left for Lake Leak.
Yeah.
So, what made me pick Saturday as a day? Well, I have a couple of apps to help me with that. One of them is called Windy, which is so you can actually access the Windy site at windy.com, or there's an application that is available on Android or iOS. The Bureau of Meteorology recommend this site because all their live data goes into it. There's a whole heap of options available. One of them, if I can find it here, is the ability is thunderstorms. And you can't really see this on the screen here, but you can actually go sort of up to a week out. So as you can see, this weekend is looking fantastic for a bit of stuff happening again on the east coast.
Yeah.
So it looks like I'll be going out this weekend.
So that's off Freycinet. That's
So that's
just off
north,
between Shooting and Murray.
That's in the morning.
Okay.
That's like 3 in the morning on the northwest coast. So, like, if you want to get up that early and do that, be my guest. If I zoom right out, as you can see here, Victoria and New South Wales are going to have a really fun time.
Oh yeah.
I'm actually part of a organisation known as Severe Weather Australia.
Okay.
And I'm in fact the Tasmanian Chief of Staff, so I feel somewhat obligated to go out and chase. But the main organiser, Daniel Shaw, I've spoken about him in the past. He goes off 3 months a year to the US to chase tornadoes. Because our storms here aren't good enough for him. But he's planning on going to have a chase in New South Wales on the weekend.
Truly. That's Central Highlands. That's Threadbow. That's Snowy Mountains.
Yeah.
That's
so, like, as you can see on the left here, there's a whole heap of options of various things that you can look at, like including the radar and satellite. So the weather radar is sort of reasonably accurate. Oh, there we go. So as you can see, again, this radar is just like the one you'll find off the Bureau of Meteorology site.
Okay.
Bureau of Meteorology upload all their stuff to windy.com.
Cool.
So, very cool application. It's free, which makes it pretty awesome.
Well and truly.
I use another similar tool called Radarscope, which is a paid-for application and is what many of the storm chasers use, particularly in the US. As you can sort of see here, but they've very recently put in the entire radar network around Australia. There is not a lot happening anywhere other than in Queensland at the moment. So again, if I hit that, you can see here a cell sort of moving through that radar zone.
Okay.
That's what I use when I go out chasing. Generally, the stuff on the app is a 10-minute delay.
Yeah.
So you sort of
You've got to think it.
You've got to look at it and try and decide what's happening
Yep.
in the next 5 minutes from 15 minutes ago, sort of thing.
Okay.
And yeah, so that's my little bit about storm chasing.
Fantastic.
I'm more than happy to take questions on it. If people want to contact me, they know where to find me.
Well, you did post some pretty specky Aurora shots.
I did. So
just recently as well. So
I should be able to find one of them here.
Just point it out. Was it Carlton Beach? No, it was
Calvert's Beach.
Calvert's Beach. No,
on South
sorry,
Harm.
Calvert's Beach.
So that looks out over Betsy Island.
Very nice, Ben. Very nice indeed.
The really funny thing these days is that's Goats Bluff and Goats Lookout down there.
Yep.
There would be probably 100, 150 people up there. On Calvert's Beach, just beside it, there were 3 people. Because everyone knows where to go and get an Aurora photo these days.
Right.
Okay. But very nice down on the beach. I got down there 8:30 because all the forecasts were promising that there's going to be an Aurora.
Yep. Okay.
Got down there 8:30, sat on the beach for an hour and a half waiting for it to get dark, so thanks daylight savings. And then there was this, and people who read the Mercury will have seen a story today from a chap, Tim somebody, I forget his name. He was around the corner on Goats Beach and he did a time lapse between sort of 9 p.m. and 1 a.m. in the morning. What you can actually see in that photo there is a bit of bioluminescence in the water there as well.
Yeah.
And he captured all that in his time lapse.
Wow.
So
Okay.
the bioluminescence in his time lapse was a lot more vivid than in my photo.
Yeah. Okay.
So,
Okay.
So at the moment I'm very much into weather photography.
Yep.
And yeah, if anyone wants to find out more, you can either look me up or come up to the club.
Yep.
And yeah,
Very specky,
that's
Ben.
about it. No
really,
worries.
really good. And is this the first Aurora of the season, or
This is probably the first one where there's been a forecast solar storm, a G1 magnetic storm,
okay?
where it hasn't coincided with 100% cloud cover in the south of the state. So
Right. Okay.
usually the best way in southern Tasmania over winter at least to predict a good aurora
Yep.
was to go by what the cloud cover was going to be for the night.
Right.
100% cloud cover, fantastic aurora.
Yeah. Okay.
So
Yeah, that's Murphy.
yeah,
Yeah. Well and truly.
yeah.
That is fantastic, Ben.
No worries.
Thank you very much, and we look forward to some specky shots, specky lightning shots.
Well, when I get them, we'll talk about them.
Excellent. Fantastic.
No worries.
Fantastic. Okay, now what I'll do here is Larry on cue. I love it. We'll head over and thank you very much, Ben.
No worries.
Now the next guest in the studio is Larry, VK7 Whiskey Lima Hotel, who has got a box of tricks.
They're for kids, you know. Tricks are for kids.
He's got a box. Well, tomorrow is trick or treat. so it's
These are tricks. I don't know if they're a treat, but okay.
Oh well, I think these are definitely a treat. So welcome, Larry.
Well, nice to be here. Thank you for the invite.
And I think this might be the first time you've been in the DATV studio as a guest. No?
It is. That's true. Yes.
Well, welcome. A DATV virgin. Yes.
Ooh, be gentle. Be gentle.
So what have we got in front of us, Larry?
Well, let's talk about this because it's interesting.
Definitely.
Okay, so apparently your computer, which I didn't know that, has vapor phase cooling.
Very similar arrangement.
Yeah. So what happens is there's a little copper tube.
Here.
Oh, yep. There you go. Yep,
we
yep.
can actually
I forgot
go.
the magic microscope.
We can actually go over here. Now, what I can do here, so you can see what they're seeing.
Here, don't forget the heat sink and the
Oh
thing.
yes. So these are. So describe what we're looking at here.
Okay, that's a copper tube. It's like a big piece of copper wire, except it's hollow. And inside it has a mesh screen. It could be nylon or anything. I'm not quite sure what the mesh is in this one. And what happens is they use a temperature differential to vaporize a fluid, and then the fluid, which picks up heat, it absorbs heat. It then goes out the there you go, goes out the tube, and actually the other direction, but that's okay. It goes there
This way.
and when it gets out to that long part, it is cooled down, and it becomes a liquid again. So in the upper part of the picture, we have a small aluminum piece which goes on, there you go, that goes on a place where a heat sink would be on a CPU.
Yep.
And then it's clamped together by that other little black piece. You see there's a groove in the middle, maybe. Yeah. And that absorbs the heat. Ah, voila, there you are. And the heat then in the form of vapor goes down the tube, just like that, and it's cooled. And then it wicks it back up.
So this would have this is on the outside world, or having or air being blown through it or something. In a computer, it's got air being blown through it, and this would be on your CPU.
Correct.
On the inside of your computer somewhere.
Or in this case, it may have been on a high-end video CPU, GPU.
Right.
GPU.
Yeah.
And this was, I think, initially developed. Well, I'm not sure when it was developed. Probably the Germans did it, but it was used in to great advantage during the early satellite days, when they had very high temperature atomic power supplies, among other things, and lots of other stuff in the satellites. They didn't announce that, but they did.
No, they had atomic batteries.
My uncle was involved, yes.
Isotope.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Yes.
But they had a lot of heat to get rid of. And so what they did
Atomic sounds much better.
well, it's TV, you know. You can't move.
This is all atomic, and that's atomic, and that's atomic.
And probably me, too.
I think we all got atoms in us.
Anyhow, they ended up getting the heat from the inside of the satellite to the exterior. So everything was cooled. And it worked very, very well.
They have a very good way of cooling it, because basically they just put something outside in space.
That's gone.
Except if the sun's shining on that.
Well, correct.
Yeah.
Now, what's the next thing?
This is a device which is used in agriculture.
Yeah.
That is a Bluetooth transmitter and receiver. And what that does is it measures the temperature and humidity inside of a beehive. And that thing is put onto a little plastic arm, if you will, like a ruler, shaped like a ruler, and it's plugged in. It's put inside of a beehive, usually above what's called the brood box, where the larvae are, and below where the honey's collected, and takes a measurement every time you ask it to, like 5 minutes or an hour or whatever.
Okay.
And equipped like that, doing it every hour, it'll last about 2 years.
Now, inside a beehive is a quite fascinating place.
Dark.
having done a little course, a mini course, but what sort of temperature are we talking about inside a beehive? What are we? Because it's quite warm, actually.
Oh yeah.
It is quite like we're talking in the 30s to 40 degrees sort of range.
Yeah, I think it's like 32 or 33 in that range, and the bees actually will go in and out and move to the so-called front door, and flap their wings to circulate the air through. And it's rather well maintained, even in cold weather, because in cold weather they all clump to the middle to protect the queen and the brood, and they create a temperature in there by simply moving their wings.
It's and they've got this fascinating regulating mechanism that's they can regulate it within within a couple of degrees.
Easy.
It's just and they do this all as a team, as a
hive.
As a hive. So
they have hive mentality.
It's just so it's just I just find it fascinating, absolutely fascinating.
Anyhow, that little device is a Bluetooth beacon, and when you walk up to it with your phone, you have the right application. It'll say, "Are you there?" And then it does a little handshake. And then it will download up to probably 6 months of data at one time. So it's recorded in there,
you go.
Even at an hour. And it does both temperature and humidity, and it's within about 1/10 of a degree temperature-wise, and I don't know what the percentage on the humidity sensor, which I think is not that accurate. Not as accurate.
Just phenomenal.
Yeah.
Just phenomenal.
It's the new and smaller.
And it all runs on a little 20-cent piece lithium cell.
Correct.
Outrageous.
Yeah. There's lots of other stuff, too.
Outrageous. That's fascinating. What's next, Larry?
Well, my junk box, my magic junk box, This is a hard drive. Now everybody's seen one of these, right?
Yes.
But maybe have they seen the inside? Do you think?
Oh well, they might not have seen the inside.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Well, I took this apart.
Have you?
Preparing for the show.
Did you take the top off so we can see the platters? No, it didn't quite go that
Come
far.
on, who are you talking to here? I'm Mr. Hammer.
Oh, he did.
Okay, first off, this is a SATA drive, actually a little tiny SATA drive, with there's
yeah.
your USB. That whole little thing is the USB part.
So this is the hang on, let's just go to
And you might want to put that over there too. But that's
yeah, there we go. So the drives come out of. We'll zoom out a little bit here. So you can see what we're looking at. So this is this was the outside it's a Seagate. It comes out to a USB 3. So this is the little USB 3 on one side, and it's got the SATA connectors on the other side that plug straight into the hard drive. So this is all of your interface, basically. Takes it from a SATA output to a USB 3. And then we've got the drive.
Be careful, the top will fall off.
Come off.
Okay.
So this is the drive that was in there. This is a little 2.5-inch SATA drive of whatever capacity.
It's a terabyte.
It's a terabyte. And Larry has actually taken the screws out. So we're in our dust-free environment here.
I want to use this again.
No longer.
So you can see this is 2 platters, I think.
I think, yeah.
2, yeah, because there's 1, 2, 3, 4 heads. So two platters. This is now you can.
That's the actuator.
That's the actuator.
And the heads are there, and they just.
Heads are in here. They're actually in their little protective sleeve here.
Yep.
We're at the park position, and that they zoom across the disc that way.
You can do that. You can move the little thing
Okay.
like that.
Like that.
Well, sort of like that.
And that's a voice. That's actually a voice coil arrangement in here that positions it really, really accurately. So.
And by the way, those heads float on top of that
They
polished
do.
material.
They do.
And apparently, particle of smoke is enough to, and it floats on a few atoms of air. That's they have no. The spacing is done aerodynamically.
Now the interesting thing is this top. You'll notice there's a little thing just here.
Yep.
That's actually a filter.
Yes, it
There's a
is.
little hole in the top that it says "Do not block this." It's a little filter, and there's a little filter here, and there's also a little filter over here. Just a little bit of filter, and there's as it spins, it is actually creating an air path,
Yep.
within the box, which that filters it on the way through to make sure nothing nasty gets in. So it's
They're really expensive. This was $89.
It's ridiculous. isn't
It's
it?
just dreadful. The
I know.
prices. Yeah.
it's correct.
Would you like to take the platters out?
Oh, you actually undone the
Hey.
middle bit as well.
Yeah.
Hang on.
That's why you moved them. That's why you.
I've got to move the heads back again.
Yeah, right.
Ooh, yeah.
These make wonderful coasters.
Well, there you go. That's 500 gigs of storage there on a surface that is just off the show, and it is a highly polished surface.
But how many platters are there?
There's 2,
There's 2.
so it's half
Yeah, I think there's only 2. Yeah.
a terabyte each, 500 gig.
And
Front and back, there's 250.
Oh, each side.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because there's 2 platters and 4 heads.
Why is there 4 heads for 2?
Well, top and bottom.
Top and bottom.
2 platters.
But where's the 2?
No, there's 4 heads.
Oh, there's
So-
another platter down here.
There's
yeah,
another
yeah,
platter.
yeah,
Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah.
So, but just phenomenal. And you think about there's 250 gigs on that platter. You think about the data density. You've got fractions of a millimeter that would take megabytes. You think about it. And so it just takes that particle of smoke or dust or whatever, and you've got there's a megabyte gone.
And you do understand that people carry these in their purse and drop them on the floor.
Having just had the notebook that we've got in here, having just had a hard disk, 160 gig hard disk, so nothing like this, a fairly old technology hard disk fail on me. It just, this is just for.
Did you put an SSD in?
There's an SSD in here now. There's a 250 gig SSD in here, and that's it.
It's a new machine.
Correct. So just phenomenal. Just phenomenal.
But there's an awful lot of technology for $79 at Office Works.
It's just scary, really. Scary.
And why did you pull it apart?
It stopped.
It failed.
Yeah. I couldn't talk to it anymore. I said, "Wow,
You bring it in here.
yeah."
I know. Well, hey, that's fantastic, and you get to see inside, which you don't usually get to see inside. So,
Well, I've gone through enough hard drives. I've seen a lot of. I go back to the date of 8-inch floppies.
excellent. Love it. I love it. I found some of them the other day.
Well, they're still using them actually.
I read that.
Yeah.
They've only just changed over. the missile guidance system's only just changed over to not use 8-inch floppies anymore.
Okay, I put this in.
I don't know
here.
whether that scares you, but it scares the producers out of me.
Yeah, right.
But the defence. The thing is, defence are in a position, like the Australian Defence Force, is in a position to keep paying Microsoft maintenance and support, and I'm talking large amounts of money, maintenance and support for their XP machines. So yes. Now what have we got?
Okay. Well, there's one with a cover and one without a cover, but you might want to put them together over there.
Cool.
And you can put this out there as well.
So what
Yeah.
are we looking at here, Larry?
Okay. We have a family member who's a type 1 diabetic.
Okay.
And rather than giving himself injections, which he used to do in the old days, of both slow-acting and fast-acting insulin, he now has a continuous delivery through a pump.
Okay.
Now,
Okay.
prior to this, you would poke your finger, measure your blood sugar,
Yep.
and then you would, he was using Lantus, which is slow-acting, so you would inject yourself with Lantus, which was basically kind of a crystalline form of insulin, and what would happen is the body would break it down over time. So it was a time release,
Okay.
unless, of course, you ate a lot of food, in which case you need to have a rapid-acting insulin.
Yeah. Okay.
So that was, lots of needles and lots of nonsense. And very hard discipline, not for our son, but for a whole lot of young people to just rebel when they're 15 and realize they have this monkey they have to feed. Big time problems.
Well and truly.
Yeah. So pumps became more and more available. And this is one of the earliest ones. This is an Omnipod from a
So-
small company. Yeah, that is the pump.
That's the pump.
Yeah, and I'm going to take that apart later.
Okay.
Yeah. And the two little pieces above are actually transmitters, and they sit.
Okay.
They go into a little sled. They
Okay.
snap into a sled.
Yep.
And the bottom of the sled has some really exotic wire hanging out the bottom.
Okay.
And that's what you inject into your skin. And
Okay.
because of the nature of the all kinds of exotic chemistry, it is able to measure the level of sugar in your bloodstream. So it's a continuous,
Wow.
it's a subcutaneous continuous glucose monitor.
Okay.
Now, it sends a radio signal to a little device, and then you say, yes, I want to increase my insulin, or it's a command driven by the person.
Okay.
It's
okay.
not automatic.
Yep. Yeah.
So what these are is these are the transmitter parts that fit on top of it. So that device with a little tiny piece under it is attached to your body with adhesive tape,
Okay.
and it sends the signal to your controller.
Yep.
A little thing that looks like a phone, and then the phone sends a signal to the pump.
Right.
And
And
you can-
you've got full control of that.
Correct. Well, there's what's called a basal delivery, which is the baseline,
Okay.
which is what you normally would need.
Yep.
And then you can have a bolus, which is what happens when you eat sugar or eat pizza. Pizza's a problem because while it has carbs in it, it also has fats.
Yeah.
So the fats control and diminish the release or the rate of release of the carbs. So you need insulin with a long tail.
Okay.
Otherwise, you'd be bolusing for the whole meal, and pretty soon you'd have a bump from the
Yeah, okay.
glucose. So
Okay.
all of it's a lot of algorithms. Why don't you give me that pump thingy back?
Okay.
And now, Have a screwdriver?
Yes.
Oh, okay. I thought I could do this. Are we running out of time?
No, that's all right.
Okay.
Take your time, talk among yourselves. Yeah. We welcome Rex into the studio, who's our next guest. So in a moment. So done. Okay. We're ready.
Okay, now this. Okay.
Best coffee cup coasters is a comment we got from the chat stream. Yes, I agree.
Now you can put that side up.
So
That's good.
just let's go to there, which is cool. So what? That's
the top of it.
and that's a little piezoelectric.
Yeah, it beeps because it needs to alert people.
Okay.
That's the part that fits next to your body.
Okay. Let's zoom out a bit more here. Let's go sideways.
Okay, now this actually, the top part is the most interesting part.
Okay.
Now what that is...
Now let's zoom in here. Let me just, so Larry can see what we're looking at. I'll zoom right into this one. We'll focus on this.
Right, now we saw the cover before with the little piezo, and this in fact is the delivery pump. Now this has a transmitter and receiver and a CPU and 4 little batteries, and that, move it to the right a little bit on the screen. Now can you see that little highlight there?
Yeah.
That little highlight is a piece of plastic tubing that is injected into the skin. So this thing is permanently installed, well, excuse me, this thing lasts for about 3 to 5 days, depending.
Oh, okay. Okay.
And that piece of little tubing is injected into the skin with a special applicator. So it sits there
Okay.
like a giant metallic mosquito.
Yeah,
okay?
yeah.
And it delivers insulin through that stainless steel
Tube.
piece of pipe
Yep.
into the plastic part. Yeah, so that's stainless, and then the other part, which is out at the end, is plastic, and that sits in the skin. Now, the batteries, you can move it back to the left, the batteries drive all of it, including the CPU. But if you notice on the right, there's a little loopy thing.
That thing.
Right, no, a little more to your right. There's a little plastic loop.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, okay. That loop comes out of right there. That's a syringe.
Oh, that's a cylinder.
Yeah, that's a cylinder with a syringe on it, with a screw thread
Yep.
on the part that
Goes through here. And
Yeah, so it comes out of there. Keep going.
Goes up here,
The
goes around here.
pump's
Yeah,
pushing down.
the pump is pushing. Yeah, and the motor is a little clutch-driven, like a rotating solenoid. I forgot what you would.
Okay, just
It
as
just
as it like a it's like a
It's a clutch or a
li-
dog.
yeah, on a linear actuator.
Yes.
Basically.
Yeah. So what it does is it just grabs because the syringe, instead of having a human thumb,
Yep.
it has a thread on it.
Yep. Yeah.
So it just pulls the
Yep.
little nut and it drives it that way.
And the amount of stuff in here is good for 3 or 4 days, you see.
No, it's the system is good because of other things for 3 or 4 days, batteries and all the rest of it. That would probably be filled up once a day, maybe every 2 days, depends. The system's got better and better, so I don't want to give you any really firm numbers, but
So-
that's what happens.
So if you're using this, you've got to fill this up maybe
Correct.
once a
And
day.
there is a port to fill it.
Okay.
Okay.
And that just sat on our son's skin,
Yep.
24/7, sleeping or not.
Yeah.
And what's nice about it, it doesn't have a tube, because most contemporary pumps have the pump in your pocket and then you got a thin tube like that one
Yeah.
Yep.
that runs up into an injection site. But this was an early one, but there were some issues with getting it in Australia and lots of other stuff. So he's over now to a smarter pump that has an injection site. The injection site works about 5 days. And that's, you got to keep moving it around, and there's all sorts of things.
Okay.
What happens is the insulin has an effect on the fat underneath the skin where the insulin is injected, and it's a myriad of things going on. There's a lot of
We
chemistry.
can all be glad that we don't have this
Yes,
problem.
you can. Yes, you
Well,
can.
truly.
Now, he's using a more modern one, and this is the pump reservoir
Okay.
out of the new one he uses, which is an even better device.
Now let's zoom out a little bit here.
And this one is, the algorithms and the pump system and everything else is so good that our son, who no longer eats carbohydrates, now has blood sugar levels a little around or below 6, which is what a normal person would have.
Okay.
Person without diabetes.
That's good.
So that doesn't mean he's free of the disease effects, but it is much better. So the only problem is that when he gets below a certain point, he doesn't have any cushion at the bottom. So if you're let's say your level is at 5 and you're at 5.5, you don't have to go very far down before you get into trouble.
Yeah, you're in the
Which
danger
is-
zone.
yeah.
So there's an upper and lower problem area. Is there?
Yeah, and the range, because your body, any normal person's body automatically takes care of it. When your blood sugar goes up, it brings it down, but it doesn't take it too low.
Yeah.
The big problem with particularly type 1 diabetics is that they end up having too much insulin and not enough glucose at night, and then they go into what they call acid ketosis, ketosis. So it's a problem. They have ketone in the blood, and there's lots of issues. But it's a lot of that's being solved now because the monitors are looking at trend lines, and they know if it's going down too far, they can stop.
They
This
make decisions before.
yeah, this pump wasn't really smart enough to stop. The new ones are smart enough to stop giving you insulin.
Yeah.
So the whole thing is getting really. They now have in the United States certain conditions in certain patients fully autonomous, but they basically an autonomous pancreas. It's just by itself, and they're now looking forward to putting them inside of patients with a small thing where you can put the insulin in. There's also some. Speaking of the audience we have here, there are also some hackers who because I was presented this by someone who will remain nameless, but who was in the room earlier. There are a group of Linux people who also happen to be diabetics, and they're really unhappy that in Australia and lots of other places you can't get these pumps because there's bureaucratic as well as other reasons why they're not approved. And so they've gone and they've taken pumps like this one, which is an easier one to hack, and they actually have their own sensors and their own.
They've
pumps.
open sourced it.
They've open sourced the whole damn thing.
I love it.
They cracked the code, and they actually now are having better results than most people are because they just said we're not going to wait. There's no point. The solution is here. What they did have to recognize was the seriousness of having too much insulin, and they're very well on top of that, from what I understand. But this is an article from Medscape, which is essentially a doctor's newsletter that I'm a part of, and the title is Ann Peters, who's a big deal in diabetics stuff in the U.S. Better glycemic control than I've ever seen, and she's showing that these people with the pumps like my son has, and the DIY do-it-yourself pump people, the Linux people, who have rather larger pumps because they do it themselves, but they're having the best glucose, best blood sugar maintenance that she's ever seen in her career of years. So everybody's waiting for this whole thing to arrive.
There you go.
Yeah.
I love it.
Anyhow, that's it.
Absolutely love it. Thank you very much, Larry.
Yeah, technology at my house.
Well, phenomenal technology. In fact, I just and medical technology. This is just outrageous.
Yeah, it's crazy good.
It's just phenomenal.
Okay.
Thank you very much, Larry.
Thank you, sir.
And yeah, good stuff. So if there's anything, the next development, we would love to see it. We would, yeah. And if your son goes DIY, we can probably get him in and have him.
He's very good at this stuff, but no, he's not DIY.
All right. Okay. Cool.
Okay. Well,
cool.
very good. Then thank you.
Thank you, Larry. And I'll ask Rex to come in. One of our regular presenters, Rex Moncur, VK7MO.
Thank you, Justin.
And what are we going to be looking at tonight, Rex?
Changes to the amateur license conditions should come up under that.
Okay.
Under C for changes. Go further down.
Okay. Changes to the amateur license conditions. Cool. Now, that's probably just done. Okay. What we'll do is very bravely go to here. That was good, wasn't it? Very bravely go to here and push something here that says let's do a presentation. Where's that? There we go. That's good. Okay, so if I do that, that's what's being displayed, Rex.
Okay, thanks, Justin. Some of you will be aware that on the 19th September, the ACMA issued some changes to the amateur license conditions. Now, there's been a few emails from Roger Harrison about these changes, and you really need to go into them in a lot more depth to make sure you understand what's really happening.
Okay.
Justin would know that the WIA in his time made lots of submissions.
Many submissions.
To try and get these changes. Now, I think it's fair to say that the ACMA have only done a minuscule amount of
what was asked for.
And mainly focused on the foundation licenses.
Yes.
But some of it appears to have implications for advanced licenses.
Yep.
And we'll just go through them so we understand. Now, what I did is I actually went back to the actual documents, and the document that makes the changes is the top one there.
Yep.
Is an omnibus amendment instrument, and it actually is the second instrument that has amended the license conditions, which were originally produced in 2005.
Yep.
And what they have also issued is a compilation of all of the amendments plus into the original document.
Yep.
Now, when I used to work, which is now 20 years ago, compilations were never considered to be legal documents. The only thing that was legal was the original act plus the amendments. It appears that they now call these compilations official documents. Now, whether that means they are legal or not,
Okay.
I haven't been able to establish.
Okay.
But I think you can reasonably assume that the compilation's been done properly and
Yes.
and tells you what.
Parliamentary Council's done their work.
That's right.
Yes. Okay.
There is also
Sorry.
There's also an explanatory statement. Now, this is the easiest way of finding out what they're actually
Trying to mean.
trying to do.
Mhm.
And within the explanatory statement, there's a human rights statement to see whether these regulations are going to infringe on someone's human rights. Interestingly enough, the human rights statement gives the best summary of what the thing's all about.
I love it.
So we'll go on to the next, which is a summary from the human rights statement.
Yep. Okay.
And the first thing is it says to allow amateur licensees with foundation level qualifications to use digital modes, which I think most people are aware of, any emission mode, which actually non-commercially manufactured equipment, which means you can make your own, and internet connected repeater systems so that they can use the what do we call these various systems?
DMR, P25, etc., etc., etc. Yeah.
Right.
Because they were able to use IRLP and Echolink before.
Oh, okay. Were they? Okay.
Yes.
Right.
Because that was there was an interpretation done of that very early on.
Okay,
so,
that allowed that to happen.
Correct.
Okay. Then they have the second point is they increased the permitted bandwidth for all licensees. Some of the documents that I've seen imply that there is now no emissions
Limits.
but there are limits on the bandwidths of emissions, so you've got to be a bit careful.
Yep. Okay.
You can in fact use any type of emission, but you might be limited in bandwidth or limited in power.
Yep.
The next point's all to do with the 3.6 gig band,
Disappearing.
and it's so complicated that I'm not going to talk about it, but essentially it means don't look forward to using the 3.6 gig band into the future.
And in some cases, and in some areas, and it's geographical, in some areas they've already lost it.
That's right.
Or they'll be losing it over the next couple of years.
And finally, it just brings overseas license conditions in line with everything that's above, so
Cool.
overseas. So we'll go on to the next slide. Some of the myths. Now that emission modes have been abolished and you can now use 400 watts for the advanced license on any emission mode. Certainly emission modes have been abolished, but they still keep emission modes in the documents in relation to power.
Yes. Yes.
You can use any emission restricted only by the allocated band limits. That's true for VHF and above, but not at HF
Below.
and below.
Yep.
Next slide. Now, the power output limit still remains and is still in the basic document, and it allows you to use 400 watts PX for modes C3F, J3E and R3E, which probably none of us actually remember.
I've got a vague idea, yeah.
Okay, good. And without limitation, but aside from those three modes, you are limited to 120 watts PY. Now, we need to understand what PX and PY is. Next slide. This is the definition of PX and PY, and PX, which allows you to run 400 watts, effectively means peak envelope power. But the 120 watts means the mean power, or average power. Next slide. We then have to interpret what are these special modes that allows you to run this 400 watts. And the C in the formula means the main carrier is amplitude modulated, and it uses vestigial sideband,
Yep.
which just means a reduced level of sideband.
Yep. J.
The J means the main carrier is amplitude modulator and uses single sideband suppressed carrier, which would be the main thing that amateurs use.
Single sideband.
3 means it's a single channel that you're operating, which most amateurs would only use a single channel.
Yep.
If it's an F, it means it's television, so that means you can actually run 400 watts on television.
The only problem is that's analog television.
Yes, yes, which nobody would want to use nowadays. And E means telephony. So essentially all of that's there, which really just tells you you can use single sideband.
Correct.
In practice.
Correct.
At 400 watts. Next slide. Now, while you can use any emission, there are some bandwidth restrictions. Now, this slide's a bit small for us to read, but essentially what it's saying is for all of the HF bands,
Yep, up to here.
you are restricted to any mode you like, but 8 kilohertz bandwidth.
Yep.
But if you want to use modes that go beyond 8 kilohertz bandwidth, you are restricted to a power spectral density of no more than 1 watt per 100 kilohertz. Now, I have no idea who would want to use such a mode.
Because that's spread spectrum sort of stuff. It's
Yeah.
just, Yeah.
And
Okay.
I can't imagine the WAA submitted this.
No way in the world.
So it must be some commercial sort of specification that they've integrated
They've adopted.
because of standardisation or
Yep.
stuff.
Yes.
In some ways, I think it's a bit scary because in the amateur situation, you could have someone running 1 watt spread spectrum next door to you.
Correct.
You know. Now, by the time you get up to 28 megs, you can actually use any bandwidth up to 16 kilohertz. It effectively means you could use wideband FM. By the time you get to 50 megs, or 50 to 52, you can use any mode up to 100 kilohertz. And 52 to 54, you can use any emission mode you like.
Well,
Over
52 onwards.
52 onwards.
Upwards.
So, while you can use any emission mode you'd like, you are still limited in the power that you can run.
Yeah.
Depending on
And Rex, this chart is a little bit disappointing because we did actually put in the WIA put in that they wanted 2.7 kilohertz as emission bandwidth for the 630 metre and the 2200 metre.
Oh, and they have.
No, they haven't. They've left it at 2.1 kilohertz.
Oh, okay, 2.1.
And
Okay.
the reason we put in 2.7 was we know that there are people who are actually using voice.
Right.
And I don't know whether they're limiting it to 2.1, but I doubt it because it's stock standard transceivers that they're using. So
2.1 still gets pretty
like,
good voice through.
correct, and most SDRs these days you can actually bring it back to 2.1.
Yeah.
You can bring it back to whatever you want. So yeah, that was a little bit disappointing because we did actually put in for 2.7 there, but you're right. The 1 watt per 100 kilohertz. I don't know where that came from.
Right.
I just no.
Okay.
That's too hard.
that covered things. Now, the
Oh, was that it? Was it?
that was just a quick run through.
Oh, okay.
Okay,
cool.
And that is all. So.
Well, thank you very much, Rex. Now, just while I've actually got you, we are on here, aren't we? You did some tests during the week on the receiving the 1296 3RGI beacon.
Oh, okay. Have a look in this.
Oh, one I prepared earlier.
No. Well, it's not.
US trip.
And yes, try that one.
That one.
Okay.
So if we move that across here, now that'll do. Let's do that. Yep. Okay. We're that's a bit better. That's what we're looking
Okay.
at on the screen.
Okay. Now that white bit in the middle there, that's about 1 hertz wide,
Ooh. Okay. Righto.
and that's a waterfall showing the spreading of the beacon in Gippsland, VK3RGI.
Yep.
On 1296, and typically it's spread about 1 hertz. However, you might notice here this is what's called a plotter, which Spectrum Lab kindly provides. Ooh, where have I got it?
Just hang on. We're what with the screen we're looking at's actually over here.
Okay, all right.
So
This plot is signal to noise ratio, and that peak up there is 18 dB.
okay.
Now that
Wow.
happened this morning, only for a couple of hours.
What do you think caused that?
I don't know.
18 dB. That's a pretty strong or pretty.
I
Significant
mean,
change.
I'm sure there was a duct
Yeah, okay.
that probably just rose high enough to get over the mountains.
Yeah. Okay.
And there was a peak a couple of days ago as well.
Yep.
those you can't. Those lines at the bottom, I think, are about every 12 hours. Those
the
those
labels.
Those labels.
Yep. Okay.
You see that the signal to noise ratio almost dropped to zero there.
Yeah. Definitely.
It was and the first time when it actually dropped to half a dB, and it was still visible on the waterfall. Further along, it dropped to zero and it was not visible on the waterfall.
Okay.
But this is a way of monitoring beacons with a sensitivity down into the -40s to -50 dB.
Wow.
On the WSJ2
So,
scale.
Can I just say, this is an integration over time, I assume, is it? This is
Very much so. This is an integration with a time constant of about 1 hour.
right. Okay.
Now, to achieve a 1 hour integration, first of all, we divide it into 42 millihertz bins.
Okay.
42 millihertz, the inverse of 42 millihertz, I think, comes out at about, I'm not sure.
A long period of time.
Like 20 seconds or...
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, 100 millihertz would be 10 seconds, so about 20 seconds.
Okay.
And then we average it 200 times.
Yep.
And that comes out at about an hour.
Right.
And that's the way it achieves the enormous sensitivity,
No, well,
so
true.
that you can see the presence of a beacon.
Cool. And what antenna are you using to receive this?
I was using about a 37 element single Yagi.
The ones that we've been building.
That's right.
So, okay.
Or, well, we've been building a range of them.
So it wasn't Richard's.
It wasn't Richard's
mega
66 element Yagi. But it was slightly larger than the one that most people built.
Yeah.
Like Hayden built a 22 element. 21 element Yagi. So
that's what is that what I built? That's
no, you were down on the shorter fiberglass rod at 1.2 meters, which I think came out at 18 elements.
Okay.
So,
All right.
Like 0.2 of the D. It's not.
it's 0.8 actually.
0.8.
Yeah, but it's.
But who's counting?
There was a slight competition to get the best SWR, and
Okay.
I think this guy opposite claims that he finally got the record by taking it home and tuning it very carefully.
Okay. Cool.
Unsubstantiated claims.
That's right.
No one else knows.
No one else knows. But
Cool.
everybody got down to sort of 1.3, 1.4 to 1.
Yeah, well, we even got the long Yagi that Richard built right down. So
That's right.
Now, what did Richard end up using as the feed? Because I left it about the point you were trying the loop and all sorts of things. So that was about when I left.
Oh, and just the linear element. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Same
Okay.
as everybody else.
he recut a new one and carefully trimmed it and
Right.
fiddled with it. And
Okay.
It worked.
Right.
It just, I mean, it's interesting that half a dozen people made these Yagis and we got a whole range of SWRs.
just small little minute inaccuracies between them all.
Yeah.
It's hey.
But I think we've probably got about 20 Yagis now in in Hobart.
I love it. Absolutely
On
love it.
1296. If we can get them all on the air at the same time during the field day.
Well and
There's
truly.
quite a few
Well and truly.
points.
And in fact, out in the club rooms there is a 70 centimetre Yagi, which is the one I built on the weekend.
Yes, and that's stunning SWR.
Well, it's. I checked the SWR last night, and it was lying on the floor with the Nano VNA, and at 432.2, I was getting 1.08 to 1.
When you sit on the floor,
It's lying on the floor.
that worries me.
Well,
Because that was probably turning it into a dummy low.
well, we can.
Because you got all this
we can
wood
put it on a
around.
pole.
You got all the wood around it. You see,
Oh no! Well, that was
the wood of the floor. And
no concrete. It was
Well,
concrete floor.
still-
Maybe there's Rio.
Which has
in
got
concrete.
Rio in there. So anyway,
I think I'd like to test it again.
and I would actually like to test it up in the air. The problem I had was I had about 30 centimetres of coax. It was the patch lead I grabbed and I went, okay, just do this. And
You
I-
can also test them with
So-
the reflector slightly off the ground with it pointing straight up in the air.
Yeah.
oh yeah, not inside though. 'cause
No,
I was-
inside, no,
Yeah.
maybe out in the drive or something.
So anyway,
Yeah.
but given I haven't done anything to that, that is basically the directed element, the driven element, and put together and basically.
You don't have on this computer the photos that I sent, do you?
No.
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 That's all right.
No.
No, I didn't
No,
bring
no.
it. That's all right.
Um,
Okay.
So, thank you, Rex. Thank you very much for your explanation. Yes, you can grab that. I think the take-home message here is it's probably a good idea to actually look at the source documents and make that interpretation yourself, because
That's what the lawyers will do before they actually do anything to you.
well and truly. So yeah. So thank you very much.
No worries. Okay.
So given that we're at 8:41 already, what I'm going to do is skip what we had on the rest of the agenda. But what I am going to do is just remind everybody that next week is our November presentation. And our November presentation is being given by Dr. Con O'Neill, who is a GP with General Practice Plus in South Hobart. And I'm surprised at how many people at the club. Con is actually their GP, so that's a good Tasmanian experience. So Con's coming along on the 6th of November, which is next Wednesday, to do a session on men's health. So all the issues that specifically men have, and in a range of ages, and how to potentially prevent or manage or otherwise those. We get underway at 7:30 p.m. The session, I'm hoping, will be streamed. So yeah, we'll be going out on the streaming channel, and also the RF for those who can't make it up here. So we should be able to get it out so people can actually see it. And also just a reminder, Sisters Acousmatica, which is Pip and Julia, still have their international open call for radio art, which is all kicked off on the 8th of November from 2 until 5 at the Moona Arts Centre. So just a bit of a reminder that's actually happening. Now our videos tonight, the very first one is Ham Radio Crash Course, loading up the lawn chairs. So this is Josh with 2 aluminium lawn chairs, and put into a dipole arrangement.
It just looks crazy when he hangs them up. Imagine what his neighbours were thinking.
Like, why are the lawn chairs hanging off the...
Yeah, like, you get it with antennas and stuff, like sort of probably... But the lawn chairs, really?
Lawn chairs?
Yeah.
So that's the first one. So thank you, Hayden, for pointing that out. That was very good. The next one is actually Ham Radio DX video, which is IC 9700 controlled by the ICOM RSBA software. And then there is a Ham Radio DX, another one in here, which I noticed you put up, which is the Tony Hutchison tribute. So that's excellent. VK5ZAI, who is considered to be by the ISS astronauts and the shuttle astronauts, etc., being one of the crew.
And NASA.
Mm-hmm. So pretty impressive. And I've met Tony a number of times, and he is just a lovely guy. And he was the one who we spoke to, who kicked everything off when we did the ISS contact at South Hobart Primary. So he was the controller there, which is really, really good. Then we've got TX Factor number 15. Now, number 15, and the reason I actually picked number 15, because we haven't played number 15, but they have a little segment in there about using the IC 7300 with the RSBA software.
Oh, yeah, I've seen that one.
So I thought we'd have a little bit of a theme of the ICOM remote control software. So yeah, that's our videos for tonight, and I think that we probably won't get through all of the TX Factor, but we'll work on it. So that's our videos for tonight, and thank you for watching and listening. I will we'll flick over to the videos, and I'll take a bit of a listen on R2. Now, one of the things we have been trying to okay, we did get a comment on the chat channel, which is about the platter, the hard disk platters, the best coffee cup coasters from 0 Bytes. Thank you very much. Good stuff. So we'll head to our videos and head in for a coffee, and might set up the if I've got a patch lead, might set up the Yagi a little bit higher out of the way and see how we go. So because I was expecting to actually have to do something with it, either move the driven element or cut it off or whatever, so I was just a bit surprised. But yeah, it may be that I was looking at the Rio. Anyway, alright, this is VK7 OTC Club Station of the Radio and Electronics Association Southern Tasmania with our ATV Experimenters Night, and we'll catch you in a fortnight's time with our DATV Experimenters Night. So 73 everyone, cheers.